Okay, so I'll dispense with the intro because I think this is going to be a one-off thing. Hopefully, it's just this year, but this is a very unique test you're about to take, where it's 45 minutes, it's open note, and it's online, and you're going to be doing it by yourself. So there's a lot of other teachers and we thought that you might need some tips on how to take this because I think what the second they say open note, open device, everyone freaks out and they completely change their studying habits. And these are the top tips we came together and we've been to college, so we know what an open note test is like. You're not as familiar with it. So here's what we think you might be underestimating. So here, all right, so open note test taking tips. Number one, treat this the number one thing people mess up. Treat an open note test like any other test. All right, that's what people mess up. They think it's open note, I'm golden, and that's not how it is. Just because it's open note doesn't mean you're free and clear. All right, and this goes into what type of open note test it is. All right, so you study if you're preparing for an open note test correctly. Study as if you're studying for any normal test, and then the open note is just gravy. That's just a bonus where you might be able to catch some mistakes. All right, so which segues into number two. This is a timed open note test, right? That's different than an unlimited time open note test. Timed open note is that's an X factor. Whenever I give an open note test in class, I'm very specific that I say this is timed, all right? So I'll use 100 question test. This is not going to be 100, but just so the percentages are easy, all right? So if I'm giving 100 question time test, I'll say, look, you have 100 minutes to take this, all right? What people do is they don't prepare like a normal test and they think, oh, I'll just look up the answers. And when they're trying to look up these answers, they underestimate the time factor always. And by the time they're on number 50, there's 5 minutes left. And just getting 50 out of 100 or 55 or 60, your grade is shot. And it's because you didn't treat it. What you should do is study as if you're studying for any other test. And right off the bat, 85% of the tests cold, and you leave the other ones, oh, I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure about 10 and 15. I'm not sure about these. You leave those later, and then after you're done with almost all the tests, then you go back to that 5, 10, 15% that you weren't sure about, okay? And that way you will not have, or you probably won't have a time issue at the end. And even if you do have a time issue, you've completed the vast majority of the test. All right, you're not to look up every single answer. That's not how, especially a timed open note test works. It just doesn't work that way. Number three, preparation is key. All right, prep time. Right, all you comic book nerds, Batman versus Superman, but Batman has prep time. Prep time is everything. All right, allocate. I know devices are in short supply. I have two kids. My wife is, distance commuting. We're all doing this thing, and the devices are in short supply. I don't know what's happening in your household, but for this test, this is the big enchilada. This is for all the marbles. Make sure you have 1.5 to 2 hour block of time. The test is on 4 p.m. at 4 p.m. So from 3 to whatever it is, from 3 to 5, you should be that's your time, and you have exclusive, no distraction access to that device. All right, that's very important because you can't have your little brother and sister or your mom or your aunt or someone coming in and interrupting you every 5 minutes when you're really laser focused on a very complicated subject of macro and or government or any AP test you're taking for that matter. So you need exclusive. The vast majority of that time, about an hour, is before the test to get all your thoughts together, prepare, maybe do some last minute cramming, and then you log in and you have all your stuff ready, which takes us to number four. Open notes does not mean group chat or collaborative, all right? There's a difference. You can have almost any, they stressed in this conference call, you can have websites up, you can have your textbook out, you can have your notes out, all right? You cannot collaborate. And they said they told us some of the mechanisms they had, and they left some of them open. You're not to collaborate, all right? Cheating, you will get caught. So don't try to group chat and, text everyone and say, hey, all right, what'd you get for number one? Don't do that. They will catch you. They have mechanisms for that. So be careful with that, please. Do your own work. You can study together. You can collaborate together the night before. You can study. Uh, Even an hour before. Hey, what websites are you using? You can collaborate, but the second you log in, you should not be talking to other students, your peers. All right, number 5, prepare before the test. Okay, so have your resources out. All right, so this is where you can collaborate, get together before the test as you're studying, as you're cramming, as you're getting ready for macro and gov. You guys are way better than my generation at navigating the internet and finding those best resources. All right, so and don't have a billion websites up, guys. Have like 1 or 2 of the top websites you found. All right, but pull them up before you take the test so they're ready on your desktop. You know where to go. All right. Have your textbook. If you have your textbook out, if you're comfortable with that, put that there. If you haven't been using that, have whatever you're comfortable with. If you know 5 steps better because it's more organized and you know how to navigate it, have that out. All right, on the side, not right in front of you, distracting you. Your notes, this is key. Your notes should be organized. It's not, a lot of times it's not note taking, it's keeping those things organized, right? You should have those notes organized in front of you, and that's prepared. That it needs to be prepared beforehand. That might take more than a couple hours to organize the whole year's notes. And if they say it's a PPC question, you know how to get to your notes. If they say it's aggregate supply or fiscal or monetary, you know within 30 seconds exactly where those notes are, right? That's not my strong suit. Some of my students are great at that. They're color coordinated. They have tabs. It looks like a yellow pages. It's amazing. All right. But you have to know you have to have those notes ready, and you have to know how to access and use them. All right. That should be beforehand. Like by the time you log in, all this stuff should be done. Hence, it goes back to that other point of you need some time. All right. Take the dry run. This is the number 1 hint we can give you. They are going to organize because they know this is a different type of year. We know you guys are going to have issues taking. It's completely different than any other AP test you've ever taken. So they're going to give you a dry run. It's going to do a couple things. A, it's going to get all the kinks out right away. All right. So you're going to see, oh, wow, I really had trouble uploading my answer. Did I feel more comfortable taking a picture of my answer and writing it down? Or did I feel more comfortable typing the answer in and submitting it that way? So you have to figure that out. That's what the dry run will do. You'll see the type of questions that they're probably going to ask this year. None of us know that until we see the dry run and we say, oh, okay, so this is what they mean by no graphing. So that will all be, and you're doing it in test taking conditions. Treat the dry run as if that's it. That's the AP test, because then you're going to have your stuff out. You're going to be ready for it. You're going to log in properly. You're going to get that 2-hour block. So it gives you the conditions, the timing, how to submit it. It gives you pretty much everything you need. And you'll find out, am I ready? Am I not? What do I have to do better? That's what preparation is for. That's like any coach. That's practice. If you don't practice in test taking conditions, you might as well not have the practice. All right, number 7. This is the second to last one. When I'm giving, and when any teacher is giving an open note test, right, a good open note test isn't asking you, what are the top 3 things of blah? You're not giving a list, because you guys could just go to your list. Here's my determinants of demand. Boom, you know them, timer, it's taste. That's not a good open note test. So what they will probably do, if I were them, and I suspect they tend to be pretty good test takers and test givers, it'll be heavy on concept based, right? So I'm not asking what's the main character's name in Shakespeare's, play. I'm not asking that. I'm asking, what do you think he meant by this line? That's a different animal, because that may or may not be in your test. You needed to have read the book to answer that question. What is the macro equivalent of that? Explain questions. Because, in order to look up and explain, you have to really search through your notes. It's a very time intensive on explain they've asked before, explain how the classical response to a recession would work. right? That's something you can't just look up. Here's my notes. It's right here on page, 362. It's like more, you have to know it. You have to have studied and prepared beforehand. You can't just open note, access it right away. And if you do look it up, it's going to take you forever and you're not going to have enough time for the rest of the test. So heavy on explain. It might have a balance sheet question where you have to manipulate the balance sheet and you can't just, look that up. You have to kind of be familiar with that beforehand. A GDP calculation. Bottom line is we're going to get more guidance, and goes back to the other point, take the dry run. All right. So those are the top tips. Now, the other thing about tests, learn and perfect how to take various tests. I can't emphasize this enough. If you're in an AP class, you're probably on a collegiate path where you're about to go to college. Knowing how to take different types of tests, but tests in general, is one of the best skills you can have in life. The better you are at taking your SAT or your GMAT or your LSAT or your MCAT or your bar exam or your medical boards or your Series 7, there's so many different times in life when your entire career is based upon a test. You should get good at it. And it's a skill you can learn. It's a skill that is natural, but there's also different things you can prepare, and you can be a better test taker. No matter what type of test taker you are naturally, you can get better at it. So that's it. Krause University, top 8 tips about taking an open note test. I'll put more out a little bit later, but that's it. Just take a look at this.